I'm Matt Nelson, and welcome to Hawkeye Stories. In 1899, the Iowa football team tied Chicago 5-5. The Hawkeyes also defeated Iowa State 5-0 that season. In more recent memory, though, there is really only one final score that truly stands out as bizarre. It occurred 10 years ago this week, but the final score doesn't tell the entire story of that week of Iowa football.
It wasn't really raining. It was a little bit wet, but it was colder. And I remember, as a kicker, you have a lot of time to kind of observe and, look around. So I did take some time to, and that stadium, I just remember being, looking up for miles and still seeing people.
108,062 fans packed Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley on October 23, 2004. Kicker Kyle Schlicker scored every Iowa point that afternoon and sent the masses home unhappy.
I do bring up that Penn State game and that particular situation when I tell them the score of 6-4. And I actually always tell them how Robbie Gould missed 2 field goals in that game too. But 6-4, they're always puzzled at how that outcome came about. And when I explain it, yeah, looking back on it, it was a very unique way to play and finish a game.
And I think, no matter what was going to happen, we weren't going to lose that game.
The Hawkeyes played this game with the Ferentz family in their hearts and minds. After a spectacular 33-7 win at Kinnick against Ohio State the preceding Saturday, Penn State week quickly proved to be challenging in so many more ways than just the X's and O's of a football game.
My grandfather passed away. I'll never forget that day. He passed away on Sunday. So it was an interesting week for our football team and obviously for my family. And we had the visitation on Thursday. We did the funeral Friday morning. We joined the team in State College on Friday night. And so it was kind of an emotional week. There was a lot of distraction off the field, and when the team has to practice without their head coach for a couple of days, that's not usually a good thing. But I do think it speaks to what kind of program we have around here, where there were guys like Kenny O'Keefe, guys like Chris Doyle, guys like Norm Parker that could keep the ship running and afloat while the head coach was away.
I think that's why we played. Not so much offensively, we didn't get it done, but the defense really stepped up that game, and they weren't going to let us lose that game. With that situation happen.
As for the Saturday contest in Pennsylvania, Iowa found itself in an early hole after a bad snap resulted in a safety and a 2-0 Penn State lead. Iowa struggled to move the ball on offense. Sam Brownlee finished the day as Iowa's leading rusher with 16 carries for just 30 yards.
That was a tough game. It was my first start and memorable one. They had a really tough defense. I was pretty beat up after that game. I remember, God, if this is like what it's going to be like every week, I'm going to be hurting at the end of the season.
A 15-play, 58-yard drive over 7 minutes and a 27-yard Schlicker field goal gave Iowa a 3-2 lead at the end of the first quarter. The Iowa defense was spectacular all afternoon. The Nittany Lions finished with just 147 yards of offense. Sean Considine's 51-yard interception return set up Schlicker for another 27-yarder in the second quarter, and the Hawkeyes carried a 6-2 lead into the locker room at halftime.
That Penn State back then were big jumpers. They had big on field goal block and PATs. They were big jumpers. So that whole week of practice, I was actually with my holder and snapper training 1 yard back than what we typically did, about 8 yards. And I was also working on some height, ball height drills and stuff like that, but so that we could get past those jumpers, and we did.
The defense continued to shut down Penn State in the second half. On the day, Matt Roth recorded 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Abdul Hodge and Chad Greenway each registered 11 tackles. The 4 starting defensive backs each intercepted a pass. That high-caliber play from the defense prompted Kirk Ferentz's decision with 8 minutes left to intentionally take a safety. The defense continued to hold its ground, and Iowa won by an incredibly odd final score of 6-4.
And it was funny because we got back to Iowa City and we go out after, and they're comparing our 6-4 game to, I think, the Red Sox playoff game, right?
Drew Tate is correct. October 23, 2004 was Game 1 of the 2004 World Series. Final score, Boston 11, St. Louis 9. The Red Sox alone kept the scoreboard operators busier than Iowa and Penn State.
So they're showing a single RBI, and they're showing us a field goal, and then going back and forth. So it was pretty cool.
But, to come out with pretty much a baseball score, and Coach Ferentz's dad was such a baseball fan, it kind of was fitting. So it's unbelievable.
6-4. The scoreboard doesn't always tell the whole story. There's no chance for a 6-4 game for Iowa this week, as the Hawkeyes are, of course, on a bye week. Be sure to buy your tickets for Iowa's next game at Kinnick Stadium in 1 week, Saturday, November 1st, against Northwestern. Visit HawkeyeSports.com for tickets and complete Iowa athletics coverage. I'm Matt Nelson, and thanks for watching Hawkeye Stories.